morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Am I too loud? Okay, we're good? All right. So welcome to the session. That's myself. I'm a technical solutions specialist with Microsoft. Today we're going to talk about open source on Azure. So I have my details up here. You can catch me on Twitter at @AprilEdwards. You can also email me at april.edwards@microsoft.com. So we're going to talk about open source on Azure. How many of you here today are consuming open source in your data centers? Quite a bit. Great. So when Microsoft Azure came to be many, many years ago, about 7, 8 years ago now, it was Windows Azure. So it was very much a Windows-centric platform. And when that came about, people started realizing it was a Windows platform, and a lot of organizations went, well, what about our workloads? What do we do with it? We don't go to Azure, we go to AWS, or we go to Google. So then they rebranded to Microsoft Azure. So here we are today with Microsoft Azure. So my remit is application development, and I work a lot with different workloads. So data center modernization into the application side. So we kind of have a 4-pillar mantra that we work with when it comes to the open source world. We talk about enablement, integration, release, and contribution. So enablement, we say any workload in our cloud, and we're pretty much a multi-cloud focused organization. So while customers are looking at moving out of their data center, we absolutely encourage them to look at using their own data centers, how it integrates with ours, using different technologies, but then also other companies' data centers. So if you're looking at Google or AWS as well, we do have some technologies that will go between those technologies. So in terms of the enablement, we like to bring any workload. So for those of you that are developers and have your code, we like to bring in any code into the cloud. And the big one we have is integration with Docker and Openshift. So we do have, I believe, Red Hat here today. We can talk a bit about some of the new platforms that we have that we can host on Azure. So a lot of what we're doing today is not just talking about Linux. So we do have Linux the Penguin here, but also just all open source technologies that you'll see in your data centers today. When we integrate into our platform, so how many of you have heard of Azure Devops, the product, or Team Foundation Services? So as we moved Azure DevOps into the cloud, renamed it from TFS, from an on-premise technology, we believe in integrating your already existing open source technologies into the platform. So we do have customers bringing their Octopus, Jira, et cetera, all into Azure DevOps. So we do see a lot of that integrate into our platform. So it's not just one-trick pony show with our apps, it's bringing it all in. Now in terms of release, we enable into not only our products, but also some of the other ones that are out there today. And actually, Microsoft is a pretty large contributor to the open source technology community. We're part of things like the Cloud Foundry Foundation, et cetera. We're one of the largest Kubernetes contributors out there in the market as well. And one thing you'll find out is that if you look into some of what we do with open source, our entire Azure platform is built on open source technology. So I think all our software-defined networking, and I don't have the percentages offhand, but all our service workloads are also open source. So we're not just running Windows Hyper-V underneath it, we're running open source. So any of our serverless stuff like logic apps, functions, also run on the open source technologies. So for those of you that are consuming open source technologies in your data centers today, you can go into the Azure Marketplace and spin up different operating systems and technologies just from the marketplace. And you can bring pay-as-you-go licensing or bring your own licensing in. You can bring your own images or use existing images that are released. So our Service Fabric cluster that runs all of our service technologies is also an open source platform. So I think a lot of people really thought Microsoft was really headed on the Windows platform. We've really moved into that open source space. About 40% of the servers running in Azure today are actually running an open source technology like a Red Hat, Ubuntu, et cetera. So we're not just a Microsoft platform running all Microsoft products. So today, in the back of the room, we have in the cloud area myself and my colleague Colin, who's also an app dev specialist. I would just suggest you guys come reach out to us, talk about what your workloads are today, how they integrate into the cloud. Happy to have that conversation on what your journey's like. We have a demo running with a age and emotion checker, so it'll do your live age or predicted age and your emotion. So that's using Azure Cognitive Services. And on that app, it's just a static web page, but it's securing the tokens through using things like Azure Key Vault, also an open source technology. So I'd just invite everyone to come see us over there, talk about open source, what technologies you're using today, and how we deploy these things into Azure.